Howdy, y'all. So today I wanted to make kind of a two-part video, and the first part of which is going to be talking about something I call the weaponization of hopelessness. And the second part is going to be a response to that, and that is the weaponization of hope and what I call radical reimagining. I don't think any of these concepts are entirely new or super profound, maybe. In fact, they're probably a little bit generic and cliche, but I wanted to create a video that it's not going to be overtly political per se. Rather, I think it deals with how to be a human in 2020 and what we are up against. And so I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. Okay, so let's start out with the weaponization of hopelessness. And when I say weaponization, I want to be very clear that this is not a literal weapon, but it is a weapon in a narrative war. And so what do I mean by this? The weaponization of hopelessness is this overarching narrative that has become so ingrained in our generation in particular. I think kind of people here are probably between Gen Z, millennial, whatever. This glorification of nihilism, not caring, not giving a fuck. Why should I try? Why should I get up in the morning? That has become a predominant narrative in our society, unfortunately. It's been spread through many vehicles. It's been spread through social media. It's been spread through music. It's been spread through media and culture writ large. And there's a good reason for it. I'm not even going to be conspiratorial and say that this nihilism is being driven by some outside insidious force. Some people would like to put the blame on postmodernism or academia or on the government or on this or that. I think the reality of the despondency most of us feel is that this hopelessness unfortunately comes from a valid place. It comes from a valid place because when we look at the amount of problems, if we just look at the amount of problems in America / the United States, for example, it's overwhelming. It's a lot. And then if we take it even further on a global scale and look at all the humanitarian, economic, political, social, cultural crises that are going on in the world as a whole, oh my God, wait, it's almost, it feels like there's nothing that can be done. But that is not a good narrative to hold on to, because then there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And I think within the context of this year, within the context of 2020, I think we finally started to see people perhaps challenging that and saying, wait, maybe I do have a voice. Maybe I really can do something. Maybe these systems can actually change. But the biggest problem I see in terms of online discourse right now is that there's not much of a light at the end of the tunnel here. Most people seem to be solely focused on dismantling. Dismantling's valid, and it needs to happen, undoubtedly, because, again, not trying to be overtly political, but I think we're all aware that this system is not sustainable. It's not going to hold as it is. But if you want to just focus on tearing down with no hope for a better future or an ability to envision a better world, then that is also a scary place to be in, because that's where we get power vacuums. And the power vacuums that you see emerge, in which you see corrupt leaders, dictators, etc., happening in history, that always comes out of a state in which people have been infected by this nihilism. They have a sense of hopelessness about society and where they stand, so they're willing to look for any strong leader, no matter how shitty, to lead them and to be a voice and to give them some sort of direction and meaning, and to give them a narrative that they can believe in. The problem is, again, like I said, these narratives and these leaders that emerge out of those states are often not so great. Okay, so that's part one. We are in a narrative war, and hopelessness is the predominant weapon to keep you stuck in your bed, sleeping, staring at your phone. That's not a good place to be in. And so, going forward, I would like to propose an alternative. Okay, so what is this alternative? Well, to be incredibly cliche here, because this term is generic and overused, but I think a lot of these generic words are actually worthwhile, and you need to meditate on them. Hope. That's the first thing I'll propose. If hopelessness has been weaponized, then so too can hope. So I want to provide a means of accessing that hope and actually practicing it just on a personal level, because I think before anything can become universal or enter into the system writ large, we all have to enact it on a personal level. That's not to deny the importance of systemic change. That's just to say, hey, this channel's called Esoteric Bullshit. One big esoteric belief that I've always subscribed to is microcosm, macrocosm. You may or may not believe that. If you don't, turn the video off. But I personally think that what we enact within our friend groups, within our communities, within our lives, just on a small scale, can and will affect the world writ large. And so the tool I want to propose for doing this in a small scale manner is a mental exercise, and I call it radical reimagining. So in this stage of society, or in this stage of, if you want to use a popular online buzzword, late capitalism, it's become incredibly hard to imagine a system beyond it, and a system that works better. I think there's good reason for this inability to imagine too, because see how fascism played out, see how communism played out. In the past, did not go so well. So we're scared of idealism. And I think being scared of idealism is reasonable, but at the same time, there has to be a light, and there has to be discussion, because again, this system is not working. It's falling apart, whether you want it to or not. It's not going to hold. So what I want to advocate for is simply that we allow ourselves to imagine, that we give ourselves permission to imagine a system which is better than our current one. I'm not going to propose that system to you because I have my own ideas. They may or may not be right, but I'll have those conversations with my friends personally. And that's what I'd like you guys to do, if you desire, is to have conversations about how could things be radically restructured? Because they have to be. What would an ideal world look like for you? Don't be scared of utopia. Do I think any sort of utopia will be achieved in my lifetime? No, of course not. We're not at that stage of evolution, but we can contribute to the evolution of the world, of our communities, of systems of power. And the first step to doing that is giving yourself permission to think and to have a voice and to engage in conversation about these things. So radical reimagining is a very simple concept. Just imagine your ideal world. Imagine how money would function. Imagine how our relationship to the more than human ecological world would function. Imagine how, whatever it is, what would be the narrative of this world? It could be one of cooperation as opposed to competition. Again, that's where I'm starting to get into putting ideas into your head about what this may or may not look like. I don't want to do that. That's for you guys to do. But what I am trying to do is give you permission to imagine and give you permission to believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you look at the progress that has been made on a lot of issues, you can see that things do evolve. Our world is still clearly very fucked up. Pardon my French. But we've made progress. And the only way this progress can continue to be made is if we have conversation, if we enact small scale change among our friend groups, and we give ourselves permission to dream in a world filled with nihilism. Not an easy task, but I believe you guys can do it. Hope y'all are having a good time out there. Thanks for tuning in. Mwah.